where you really felt like you found your role in this team? Because it felt like the first 2 years you were trying to figure out exactly your place in the W.
Everybody does a little bit, and I think it's having that support system to.
The WNBA as a whole is currently in a panic. And the reason for this is that in the Indiana Fever locker room, Lexie Hull chose to reveal some strange information about Caitlin Clark. Because Caitlin Clark has always been the unconcerned queen, as we are well aware. She is the kind of person who could be blinded, pushed, or even tripped during a game and maintain her composure while pretending that everything was planned. However, Lexie Hull. Because it seemed like you were trying to figure out precisely where you fit in the W for the first 2 years, you truly felt like you found your role in this squad. Because everything is so hazy, it's difficult to pinpoint your actual location fit. She isn't here to remain quiet. She makes a lot of noise. She is unrelenting and tired of seeing her comrades and best friend become the objects of absurdity. She is thus revealing everything, including every bullying incident, embarrassing moment, and bizarre behaviors that have somehow escaped detection up to this point. Yes, I have viewed a few of my concealed direct messages, but I don't want to read many of them because I know that they are sad. Until they emerge from the woods and say, I've been following along this entire time, you kind of forget that there are individuals working behind the scenes. Additionally, the Indiana Fever season began as a complete bust, as everyone is aware. Any squad can lose brutally 8 times for every triumph. That is the stuff of nightmares. But it felt like a full-blown crisis because of the expectation-laden fever. There were doubts everywhere, and the pressure was unbearable. The stress in the locker room was almost palpable, as everyone wondered how a team with so much potential could fall apart so quickly. One question dominated the attention of both players and fans. Is it possible that they will recover from this mess? Now, a key player in the team's recovery, Lexie Hull didn't mince words while discussing those times. There was chaos in the dressing room. Players were always on edge and on the verge of breaking, and physical and mental exhaustion was the norm. However, despite all of the strain, there remained a persistent sense that they were superior to what their record indicated. It was a gut-level belief concealed beneath layers of frustration rather than naive hope. Fans are waiting for it to go in after the season with all of our shots, threes going up. Therefore, feeling confident as a result of that is just wonderful. It all made sense when Hull revealed what transpired behind closed doors. The group was in a state of emotional turmoil. Players began to question whether they belonged in the league, whether their tactics were a joke, and whether their roles even made sense after each crushing defeat. Some players questioned whether it was worth it to keep going because the stress was so high that they were barely hanging on. Here's the startling bit, though. Fever never turned against one another. They remained together, even though it would have been simpler to let their rage drive them apart. The spotlight's following is fantastic. Additionally, it's very significant for women's sports and the WNBA. At the end of the day, however, our job is to do. This kind of progress has been observed year after year. I'm really thrilled to say that the Indiana fans have been incredible and it's been a lot of fun. Instead of blaming each other, they made the unachievable decision to trust each other. It was an inexplicable, unyielding resolve that went against all reason. They demonstrated how far they could push through chaos when they stood together, and their togetherness and refusal to break created the stage for the unexpected turnaround. Then, when Caitlin Clark announced her intention to enter the WNBA draft, the Indiana Fever's path took an unexpected turn. The sports world was essentially shut out on that particular day. When the Fever acquired the top choice, fans who had already witnessed Clark tearing it up on college courts went completely crazy. Social media moved from hardly mentioning the Fever to a full-blown Fever level. All of a sudden, Twitter, a flurry of Clark to the Fever postings, Instagram, which was bursting with fan art and jubilation, and those once embarrassing preseason ticket sales, yes, they took off like they were shot out of a cannon. When Clark finally entered the Fever's facilities, the squad was receiving more than just attention. It was like the premiere of a big-budget film. Gainbridge Fieldhouse was filled on draft night on April 10th, 2023, and thousands of fans were going crazy just seeing Clark's selection on a screen. The environment was vibrating as if someone had turned on a stadium-sized amplifier, and Fever Punk completely intended it had never been more genuine. I came to see that, for example, how we finish and improve is more important than how the season begins, and I'm quite pleased of the group's resilience alone. Indeed, I believe that she has a broader perspective on the game, which is evident in the platform she developed for herself and then transferred to the game. Let's clarify one point, though. Beyond her incredible three-point shooting ability and dominating play, Clark had an impression. Although she was already a human highlight reel, her enthusiasm for the squad was what truly made the difference. When Clark came, there was a seismic shift that Lexie Hull couldn't stop talking about. Hull recalled how the players seemed to have been connected into a generator when Clark walked into her first session. Everyone seemed more alive all of a sudden, and it wasn't just her gift. Her humor was the kind that made everyone laugh in a matter of minutes. It was natural and unforced. Instead of preparing for drills, Clark could somehow make a room full of anxious athletes feel as though they were at a comedy club. But Clark took winning very seriously. Her famed competitiveness quickly caught on with the rest of the team. Hull explained how Clark's uncontrollable desire to win was infectious and spread like wildfire throughout the team. Players who had been immobilized and dragging their feet were suddenly energized. You got the next one, she will undoubtedly say, like, I know I can rely on her to keep me upbeat and confident. It was no longer a chore to practice. Clark made sure that everyone was prepared for battle on the battlefield. Her energy changed, not only lifted, there was more to Clark's presence than dazzling plays. She was intensifying the fever to a degree they were unaware they had. Then came the moments that demonstrated Clark's versatility as a basketball guru. Coach Christy Sides had turned up the volume to mimic crowd noise during a particularly harsh workout. With the exception of Clark, most players were simply coping with the loud noise. Can someone turn it off? She cried without skipping a beat. I have a migraine from that. The room fell silent. No one spoke to Coach Sides in that manner. Hull explained how everyone held their breath in anticipation of an explosive outburst. However, the entire squad erupted in laughter when Clark repeated herself. The anxiety vanished in an instant. It was ridiculous. It came as a surprise, and it immediately became a legend in the history of the disease often discussed is. She seems to give everyone a genuine sense of confidence. It seems as though she has a tendency to think broadly. As you can see, you've been on the rise for 3 years, but this year you go from rebuilding your squad to selling at venues. The fans adore you. In the meantime, one of those stories you can't ignore is Lexie Hull's change due to Indiana fever. Watching a movie where the underdog eventually gets her big break is similar to that. And the time had come. Hull was hardly noticeable on the court when she originally joined the WNBA. She spent 2 seasons on the bench, averaging a meager 12.2 minutes per game and a dismal 30.7% shooting rate. Even the most devoted supporters begin to question whether she would be a better motivational speaker than a player after seeing that stat line. Indeed, she had won consecutive NCAA crowns in 2021 and 2022 while attending Stanford, where she was a college standout. But she was smacked like a freight train when she made the switch to professional ball. There was no glory, only struggle. Then suddenly, however, something changed. Hull even said she felt as like she was in a dream that she didn't want to wake up from. Not the first choice. And I believe that Caitlin's declaration somewhat altered the situation for the city. People couldn't wait to show their support for the Fever. That was what we sensed. I mean, I believe that simply going to the available spaces is a part of my job. Additionally, individuals find the open person because of our excellent offense. It was more than just a tactic. It was true faith. And you start to play like you truly can when someone like Clark, a true superstar, has faith in you to perform. All of a sudden, Hull was playing with such confidence and draining shots that everyone wondered whether this was the same man they had nearly written off. Her name was suddenly being chanted by fans who had previously never heard of it. But as Hull lit up the court as if she had always been there, teammates watched in awe. Then there's Clark's well-known, even terrifying competitive fire. Hull used to make jokes about Clark's inability to cope with losing a scrimmage. What had formerly seemed like ordinary warm-ups became gladiatorial combat. Clark pushed everyone around her as well as herself. Her infatuation with winning quickly spread to others. Players were scrambling for rebounds as though they were in the championship game and diving for loose balls as if their lives depended on it. The crew as a whole was forced to level up. That unrelenting zeal began to pay dividends on game days as every practice seemed like a high-stakes battle. The element of competition as well. I believe you have previously discussed how she has somewhat increased the level of competition. I can contribute to any team by guarding the opposing squad, making open shots, staying in the right place, and spreading the floor. I thus concentrate on such things. Clark was a game changer in the Fever's locker room because of his special combination of humor and intensity. With Clark there, Hull frequently said that every practice seemed like a championship match. The scrimmages were hotter than ever, and the drills were rigorous. However, there was an odd sense of happiness in the air. Clark ensured that everyone was enjoying themselves while making every minute matter. The team spirit was boosted and the effort felt worthwhile thanks to that dual energy. Clark had a profound impact that changed the team's culture as a whole. Hull's remarkable ascent, however, was the clearest example of it. Her diligence wasn't the only factor in Hull's comeback. It demonstrated what happens when a player's self-confidence is unleashed. Hull became the player everyone thought she could be because of Clark's faith. It serves as a reminder of the transformative power of sincere belief and a monument to the strength of support.